Pod.
Rugby pod. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Rugby pod, where the Lions are off to a flyer 50 against the not-so-mighty, a bit harsh. They're the Western Force in Perth.
Yes, James, we've got over our little stumble last week against the Pumas, and we absolutely tore a new one to the Western Force. More importantly, though, we're starting to see a little bit of Andy Farrell and how he wants to play the game, and his game plan is evolving and brewing nicely with Henry Pollock to the fore.
Some might say. Yes, sir. Proper pod this week anyway. If you like big guests, they don't get much bigger from a Scottish perspective. And we've turfed him out of bed as well because he's down south somewhere, real south. It's the legend Gregor Townsend. He'll be joining us from New Zealand just before the mighty Scotland start their summer tour that everyone's talking about.
No one's talking about it, but Tooney is also a legend of the Lions from 97 as well. So looking forward to chatting to him. So settle back, enjoy, and make sure you subscribed on the number one music podcast platform that you can have in the world. That is Spotify.
This episode is presented by Sky Sports on Now.
So, the British and Irish Lions are on tour, James.
They certainly are, Andrew. And if the millions of Rugby Pod listeners want to watch the action, then Sky Sports is the only place to do it. All 3 test matches and every single minute of the 6 warm-up games, live from the 20th of June to the 2nd of August.
And by streaming Sky Sports with Now, they can add or remove memberships whenever they like.
Oh, lovely stuff.
18 plus, UK only. Minimum speed 2.5 megabytes per second. Live scheduling may be subject to change and full terms apply. Good weekend, lads. How hot? Let's get it out there. How hot is it?
Too hot. I should say, though, I've got some mates that have gone to Glastonbury and some family members. And I'm like, what happens when you want to get out of the chaos? Where do you go?
Couldn't think of anything worse.
Do you know where you go?
Where'd you go?
Into a tent, just what you need, right? Just what you need when it's 30 degrees, okay? Where do you go? I'm absolutely boiling. Where do you go? In a tent. And also, we should say, not that it's all about Glastonbury, this is about rugby. Big shout out to Sam Ryder, friend of the show. He's there. I saw him on the TV doing his bit, and he was asking for the Rugby pod and said that the anthem went down an absolute storm with our listeners. So big shout out to Sam Ryder. I was calling him Sam Fender, but anyway, that's our relationship with Glastonbury out the way and music for this episode.
Let's not talk about it. They're getting political down there, so let's not go there, James.
Yeah, very true. Very true. We're not going to go there. We're going to stick in our lane today, aren't we, producer Rob Brogan?
We are, mate, but I was going to say, you know what's worse than people go to Glastonbury? People that go to Glasgow with their kids. Imagine taking your kids there.
Oh, mate, hopefully you lose them. That's all you're thinking. You're going there thinking.
And how hard is it when it's this hot with the kids? Your temper, it gets tested a lot, doesn't it, lads?
Yeah, it does, yeah. We were saying, Roberto and myself, we've had a family meeting, not together in the parts of the world that we live in, but there's been a few conversations had about the next few weeks in front of us, let's say, together as a family, that we're all really looking forward to. So we're just managing expectation and managing emotions.
Try doing it in a camper van, lad.
Oh, mate, I mean, no, Rob.
You know, when you're posting pictures of that, Rob, are you thinking cool as fuck this?
Yeah, is it not?
I'll let the masses decide. I will let our mass audience decide, Rob Brogan.
There we go. Nice. Should we chat Ruggers then, lads? Should we chat the Lions? How good were they? We look good, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a pause. Don't be negative, James.
No, I enjoyed it. I'm not being negative at all. You know I enjoyed it because that isn't what you said when you messaged me. It was actually me who said that I really enjoyed it, Andrew. So do you want a bit of honest truth or not?
Yeah.
Ask the question again.
Yeah.
Ask the question again.
Did you enjoy the Lions, James? How good was it?
I did. I thought it was great. You?
Parts of it were good. I thought it was a little bit underwhelming. The whole what you're watching on TV. Maybe the studio looks a bit awkward. For different reasons, but it was good. There was some good rugby, but the atmosphere just didn't seem. Do you know what I mean? It was.
Well, there's been such a big build-up. That's why I think from the players, from the management, from the fans, there's been this mega build-up, right? And I think maybe that's what it was. Maybe people getting used to getting up in the morning on a Saturday to watch the rugger from this side of the world made it feel a little bit different. But I did come away from it, and when I was watching it, felt like we're here. This is great. You're starting to see some of the players that have been standout all season starting to put in performances for the Lions.
Yeah.
And it felt like, especially in that first half, you got an idea of the quality of Australia will be in their physicality, in their breakdown work, in the fact that there was a bit of shithousery, and we'll talk about some of the announcement stuff and the lead up in the week. I feel like we're starting to move now, and for that I'm excited. I did enjoy the game, I'll be honest with you, I did, and there's loads of stuff that we can talk about and that we can break down now.
Yeah, no, it was good. I mean, ultimately to get a 50-point win is good. Some people, like we said last week, there wasn't many people that played against Argentina that really put their hand up and said, pick me for a test match. The starting, and I know it's going to grow week on week as people get better and better. But you feel that players are putting their hands up, and we're getting another week closer to selection for the test series, which is what it's all about, right? And yeah, it was great to see the stadium, big old stadium. And I don't know whether, because it's not a rugby stadium, the atmosphere didn't sound great because the fans are so far away from the pitch. But, the amount of numbers in the stadium was great. And then you look at some of the performances, and there was a fair few that put their hands up, from a forwards perspective. Joe McCarthy, he gets man of the match. He was just going around banging boys and carrying big. And it's what he's probably missed a bit of that, hasn't he, over the last few months in a Leinster jersey. But it was back to his best. And some people are like, oh, don't get too carried away. It was only the Western Force and all that stuff. But you can only get excited about what you see. And we're starting to see some players really put their hands up. There's a lot of players that were playing their first ever game in a Lions jersey, which... And like Faz said, you want the shirt to humble you a little bit. We saw that clip in the week, didn't we? Which I think's great. And maybe, for some people it humbled them a little bit against Argentina, but we're starting to see they're comfortable. They're on tour. They've spent a bit more time together. There's obviously, more structure in attack, and, the fight is on to get those test jerseys. And, we'll have another game this week against the Queensland Reds, midweek game to talk about as well. But effectively, it felt good, and it felt like Finn Russell running the show. Just pick him at don't pick Finn again now. Just give him a rest, get him to the test series. And there's a few boys that had those sort of performances.
What was the main difference this week to the Argentina game?
Well, it was a lot easier. Argentina, and having more time to reflect on that Argentina game, they are a wicked outfit.
Yeah.
And they weren't fully loaded. And I think maybe back to the first question of what we thought, and it maybe felt like it wasn't as big as it might or should have felt being the first game. It's because that Argentina game in Dublin, so close to home, was mega. And then the lads flew over there. And that was the big difference, was the quality of opposition. We saw the desire, and we saw the build-up, and we've seen the niggle, and we've seen the, if you want to call it shithousery, in the lead-up to this game. Like, it means a lot for the people in Australia, but it comes down to the quality, doesn't it? Nick White mentioned after the game that the scoreline didn't really reflect the game, and I understand what he means, like 54 points to 7. I understand.
I thought it did.
What he means. Yeah, but I think what he's trying to say is, well, I don't know what he's trying to say. To me, it didn't really feel like 50 points. It felt like a few of the tries were kind of breakaway tries, but the second half was always going to be how it unfolded, right? The quality of the Lions players, the best players in the world coming on, and then the Western Force players coming on who are second string to the Western Force, and there's not as many Wallabies. I know it's the Western Force, they don't have as many to play that match. It was a foregone conclusion, but I think that's what he was saying after the match. And I thought the Western Force were great in that first half, and the Lions needed that as well, because I've got to call him out. He's a legend. Sir Ian Geach, would you have given the Lions 5 out of 10 at half-time? Or am I being harsh?
No, that's just how I felt. I understand why he's done it, because it did feel a little bit like slow to get into the game, or apart from the first try, it was after 2 minutes or whatever it was. But you know what I mean? It wasn't like... The flow was great, and I thought the Western Force put some good shape on in attack, found some edges. Our discipline wasn't great in that first half, but
So you're agreeing with Sir Ian?
No, 5's a bit. I mean, I listened back to our pod when I'm giving boys 5s left, right, and centre last week.
I ain't doing that this week, Rob. I ain't doing it. I've said to producer Rob, I ain't doing it this week. I felt so bad.
I felt bad, yeah. But I get why he's done it. Maybe a 6. But like going back to your question, Rob, about the difference, and Jim, you said it then. Like the breakaway tries, how clinical we were. And maybe it's because it's against the Western Force and, we scored a couple of tries. They're just simple drop balls from them that we've picked up and then gone into transition, bang, 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 Mac Hansen making a half break, getting an offload away, and then James Lowe, 1-2s. And some of the tries felt a little bit easy, didn't they? You look at that Thomas Williams one in the first half. Even the Finn Russell one that he creates for Elliot Daly with a quick tap penalty, that ain't happening in a test match. And so maybe it just felt a little bit like that. But it was like Finn's great vision to see they've switched off. And it doesn't happen against Australia necessarily, but it will happen in a club game. And he's pointed Pollock to go back behind his back and get to the right and the tap and go. And Elliot Daly scores the try. I suppose the reality was the difference between the two was passes were sticking. The boys felt more comfortable playing together. They've had a week extra training. And they wouldn't have had actually that many sessions with the flying and all that stuff, but it's just being comfier in each other's presence and knowing each other that little bit better. And then you look at the combinations. So, I put something out about Mac Hansen on Twitter and I said the Lions wings for the test matches will be Irish because of how they work together, James Lowe and Mac Hansen, and everything that Bernard Jackman said last week about Andy Farrell likes his wings to be untidy, but going looking for work and, looking for offloads and creating things and not the flash stuff. Those boys, little 1-2s with each other. You saw some of the breaks, some of the tries that we scored from our own 22. It was clinical, but it takes players to go and find a half shoulder, find a forward who's just in transition from a turnover, who's not comfortable in the defensive position he's in, go and get an inside shoulder and offload away. Same happened with Henry Pollock's break in the first half off Josh van der Fleer's offload. They found a weak shoulder, bang, little offload behind the tackle. Henry Pollock bursts onto it, 100 miles an hour, then gets the offload away to Thomas Williams for the try, right? And they were the things that the differences between a week ago against a very good Argentina team and what is probably the worst Australia province or Super Rugby team, without being too harsh, the Force are. But things were sticking and it looked good and the confidence is going to grow from there.
Story on Mac Hansen. So going back with a very good friend of the show during the match, and he said to me...
Who's the friend?
I'll let you unpick it.
Okay.
And if not, I don't want to call him out on here because he doesn't rate Mac Hansen.
Oh.
And I'm like, how dare you? What are you talking about? Doesn't get the hype, doesn't see it at all. And then to be fair, he did come back to me towards the end of the game and said, since I've said that, he's been all right today. I said, all right. I said, he's been all right. He said, he's not great defensively. He's not. And, I think there's maybe a loyalty element to it. There's maybe I don't know. He's got the blinkers on. He's got the Northern Irish blinkers on, so he can come on.
Oh, Stevie Ferris.
No, I'm not saying any names. I'll let him come on and defend himself. So, but it's an interesting take, isn't it? How you all have an opinion on different players, and I know all the talk after the game and a lot of the media jumping on Henry Pollock, right? And it seems to be the easy one to kind of jump on. And is he going to be a Test Lion? Mac Hansen, is he better than Darcy Graham, for example? Can Elliot Daly play 15? And this is the joys, and this is what it is to be a British and Irish Lion now. You're there in the centre of it, and everyone from all over the world is passing judgment on whether or not you're going to make the test team. You can only play what's in front of you, right? And that's what it is. So the lads who played against Argentina, the likes of Marrow, who people are like, does Marrow even start the first test now?
Yeah,
because Joe McCarthy did so well.
Yeah.
But that's what it is, and that's as fickle as sport is. So from my point of view, when we go through the podcast today and when we go forward, it's hard because you can be high on a player, but you have to understand the team. And you did reference it then, and it's not a harsh saying, the Western Force out of all the provinces the British and Irish Lions will play is the easiest one. Everyone's saying that. And it's good that they got that out the way and sterner tests come. But you can only go based on this episode on what we've seen at the weekend.
What one name you did mention then, and we should start with all the positives, right? Joe McCarthy
Let's do it.
Was great. Finn Russell nailed on at the minute. You're picking the test team tomorrow. It is your 10 without a shadow of a doubt. Other players, I thought Elliot Daly, you mentioned him then, and we'll see, Hugo Keenan's going to come back into the mix as his injury. And I think there's news that he's going to be fit for the game this week against the Queensland Reds. Blair Kinghorn just won the top 14. He's flown over, probably a little bit hungover, but he'll get there to next Saturday.
Has he already flown now? Or is he out with the lads?
He's flying Sunday. So today, he's flying today.
Oh,
we're recording Sunday. He's flying Sunday.
Do you think he's pulled the plug on the night out after winning the top 14 to come over
No
here?
chance. He loves it.
No,
straight through.
No, definitely not. He's out in Paris.
Looking at the scenes in Toulouse, he's probably gone back there just to chop a few as well and then go back to Paris to go back over. He's a bit loose, is our player.
Yeah, he's a ledge. But I thought Elliot Daly, and people are like, do you remember when the squad was picked? And people are like, how's Elliot Daly got on it? Well, I'll tell you how. He's a bit of a test match animal at times. He scores the winning try for England against France in the Six Nations. The fact that he can play outside centre, wing and fullback, he's got a howitzer of a left boot. I thought at fullback at the weekend, he was outstanding in terms of and these are things that people, your average fan, and I'm not sort of belittling average fans here, your average fan will look at line breaks and X factor stuff. Watch Elliot Daly's positioning from a lot of the kick battles that are going on. He reads the game so well at fullback, and I've always thought that's his best position. And I know people are going to go, yeah, but he doesn't make tackles when there's line breaks or whatever. But I thought he was outstanding. Positionally, he was brilliant. He ran with energy and power, getting offloads away. I thought he played really well. And it's not someone that people will be putting their hands up and saying, pick him for the test team, because there is Blair Kinghorn and Hugo Keenan. But if I'm picking my test team tomorrow, 100% Elliot Daly is at least on the bench. And I thought he was outstanding in the 80 minutes that he played. And, the try he gets with Marcus Smith just working together in that second half towards the end, fully deserved for the efforts that he puts in. I thought he was great.
That Thomas Williams pulling up with his hamstring, well, that doesn't look good, does it? I think Faz is due to do a press conference as we're recording on Sunday night. I think it's in the middle of the night, UK time, which probably doesn't sound good, does it, if they've scheduled something for then? Obviously he's reading between the lines, but...
He played really well, didn't he? Like Thomas Williams.
Really well.
And that's the thing. And if he had your time again, would he do the dive for the try? Well, he twings his hammy or pings his hammy a little bit when he's dived in that way for the try, which is the most unfortunate thing, right? And he probably felt he had to dive in that way to score the try. But if it's bad, geez, that's such bad luck, isn't it? Because his performance when he was on the field in that first half, I thought puts him, and he came off the bench last week as well, didn't he? And obviously, I think Faz, be interested. I hope Faz, and I hope it's not too bad in terms of the hammy, and you can get over a hammy, depending on whether it's grade 1, in a couple of weeks. Obviously, with Jameson Gibson Park being out injured as well at the minute, and there's rumours that he's going to be fit for Wednesday, but he hasn't played for a while. I hope Faz just calls up another scrum half and gives Thomas Williams the opportunity to get fit and stay around the squad and not just chuck him out, but you know what I mean? Because his performances in the minutes that he's had when he came off the bench last week against Argentina and then starting the game on Saturday, I thought he was outstanding.
If you're picking the next scrum half, you're picking Ben White. Look how well he's played for Scotland. Craig Casey as well. There'd be an argument for him, for sure. But Ben White, and what does deserve your shot mean? I don't know. Because if you're going like for like, are you going Ben White to replace a Thomas Williams who offers something different?
Yeah,
so I don't know.
Geographical lines again, mate. Geographical lines again, James. What are you on about?
Yeah, he won't go into that. But I do feel for Thomas Williams. It felt like he was the man of the moment, or he's one of the men of the moment over the last few weeks as well. So such a shame. So we wish him well, and hopefully, like you said, we keep him, and Faz keeps him in the squad because he could be fit for the third test. You don't know, or second test, however it folds.
After 2 games, do you think we've got a better idea of how Andy Farrell's lines are going to play? Because they do look to be a very different side to previous lines tours that we've seen, just in the way they play.
I'm unsure because the first game they went with Bundyaki and Sione Tuipulotu, right? So I think most people can say, right, maybe that power of Bundy at 12 and Sione at 13 doesn't work.
Was that a consequence of injuries?
Yeah, it was a consequence, but I think you would maybe look at that the physicality aspect to that, because Bundy offers something physically more than Sione does. But I think that we're all agreeing and probably certain that Sione starts at 12, right? And then we got to see Hugh Jones come on, albeit he's injured, did a couple of good bits, naturally made a couple of errors as well. So I think we saw a brief combination of a Finn Russell, Sione and Hugh Jones, for example.
Ringers was great, I thought.
Oh, Ringers is great, and he is. And some idiot said that he might not even be on the tour. But in answer to Rob's questions, I think with that now we're clutching at straws a little bit, because I don't think we've seen, because Western Force aren't great or weren't great. They were good, but they weren't great, because the Argentina game was what it was, because of the way, and we can maybe talk about the breakdown, and Ben O'Keefe, the same referee, the Western Force game, is the first test match referee. How will he make up the back row? Because if you're going for a poacher in that position,
he didn't give any penalties. He didn't give any penalties.
No, but he gave penalties against the team that was going for the poachers. So I don't think we've learned anything, because maybe then Andy Farrell was thinking, right, okay, I actually now need to go for a rangy 6. So I have to go for an Ollie Chesham at 6 or a Ty Burn. And we've not seen Tiger at his very best, but he's a test match animal. And Andy Farrell knows that. I think Joe McCarthy's almost nailed it, which is a crazy thing to say after game 1, but he just looked fit, he looked hungry. Marrow's in, he's captain. You know, we've seen the captain changed after game 1. Peter O'Mahony got dropped, didn't he, after the first test in New Zealand. So we have seen these things, but I think I'm trying to answer Rob's question and fluster my way through it, because I don't think we've seen enough of a quality opposition to really test the combinations yet. But that's what these next couple of games will be for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's very different to a Gatland-led team, isn't it, if we're being honest? And ultimately, Gats, the last tour, you come up against South Africa, which is a completely different beast. And in terms of how Gats sets a team up, this British and Irish Lions team, coached by Andy Farrell, and Bernard Jackman said it last week, there's Irish coaches in the mix there. They're playing a similar way to how Ireland play, in terms of the shapes, the intricacies around phase play. And yes, they've got some different beasts that they can use. Finn Russell at 10 is probably, without disrespecting Prendergast, he's more of a front foot 10 than Prendergast is. Prendergast is like a sexton, an organiser, ball player. Finn will have a dart, have a dig, try and create something himself as well. So they've got different tools, but they seem to be playing in a way in which you watch Ireland play. Cohesively, that's going to improve over time. But I'm not saying there was no attacking intent on the last Lions tour. It was behind closed doors in South Africa, and Gats plays a certain way to try and beat a big South African team and set his team up to do that over the first games. But this Australia team, the grounds are harder. They're going to play a certain way, and Faz coaches in a way that Faz coaches with the structures, the shaping, phase play.
Who's key to that whole thing you're talking
Jameson
about?
Gibson Park.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I might not have said that, but I interviewed Owen Farrell last week, and I was talking to him about
you didn't interview
the best
Owen Farrell,
players
did you?
in the world.
I wouldn't know. You've not worked it everywhere.
Of course I have.
I thought you didn't like him.
But
I thought you didn't like him.
No, he doesn't like me.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but I think he does now. We found a mutual ground, which was great. But I asked him at the end, for the fans, 2 best players, or best players or whatever. And he said Peter Steph Toy, and then he said Jameson Gibson Park.
Oh.
So. Yeah, but with a Jameson Gibson Park, when he mentioned that, there'd be a number of reasons why he mentions that, right? One would be because he's played against him and he's watched him play, but also would be the conversations he's probably had with his dad. And that, in answer to Rob's question, have we seen how the Lions are potentially going to set up? I don't think we have, because if he is the key in how Ireland want to play and bring the forwards in and the sniping and the return plays and the kicking percentages in which he plays with, then we don't have an understanding of it yet.
You need to see Gibson Park and Finn Russell playing together. And then you go on to the 8 conversation. And just before we get into it, about the 8 conversation, first thing I'm going to say, Jack Conan, what a moustache. The absolute slug on his top lip. How good does he look with that? Very
Australian. And we know that he dons the moustache anyway, but it felt very outback Australian. So I'm loving his work.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on 8 then? Pollock, Conan, another?
Well, the thing is, right, with Henry Pollock, and you saw him doing his Stan Sports after I did Talk Sport, and the conversation of Henry Pollock come up. So to a casual fan, it's on the tip of their tongue to talk about him, because a lot of stuff, good and bad, and I say the bad, I mean the fight or the off-field antics or the social media, however you want to look at it. I don't see it as bad, I see it as good. But the good and the bad around Henry Pollock, there's talking points always. If you look at the good stuff in the game, and we saw glimpses of that Premiership form, the Champions Cup form against Leinster, we saw glimpses of that with the chip and chase, bounce into his hand, like how good. We saw the break, the footwork, the speed. But what we haven't seen, and I don't know why I'm saying this, maybe it's because Sam Warburton said the same thing, we need to see it against better opposition. And we've seen him do it against Leinster. So it's almost irrelevant me saying that. But we haven't seen it at test level. And the reason why I'm kind of saying these things is because I think there'll be a part of Andy Farrell that wants to pick him. Okay, clearly likes him. I'd go as far as saying loves him, is his kind of guy. But in a Jack Conan at 8, you've got a proven performer. And I think going into a test match, I don't know, even if Henry Pollock played every single game and lit it up, there'd be a question mark. I have a feeling he's going to be on the bench. That's the feeling that I get. But I think with the 8 leading up to the tour was always a question mark because of Doris and because he didn't pick Tom Willis. You know, and it felt like, well, he's picking Jack Conan. Not only have you got leadership, not only have you got an old bull in that position, you've got the experience that has proven against some of the very best teams in the world that he can deliver. I've got no doubt that Henry Pollock, if he played, would be brilliant because he's just stepped up to everything that's been given him. But is it a risk for him to start the first test? But look, if he carves up, because he's young, he's fresh, then what a story. You know what I mean? What a story. And he could do it. I think you look at what he's done. He's answered every single question that has been thrown at him. But I just think maybe a start in the first test could be a step too far. But look, bit of time left, isn't there? Bit of time.
Yeah. I mean, Jack Conan's probably the man at the minute who you go to if you're picking your test team tomorrow. But Henry Pollock's 100% on the bench. And like you said, Jim, I don't see what's the bad. I don't see what the bad is. Everyone's like, oh, this Henry Pollock kid. I think it's great. Like, actually, when, the fight kicks off after Elliot Daly scores a try, it's actually not his fault, if you look at it. So he gets sort of bumped as they're heading towards, he's looking for an offload, he gets bumped as they're heading towards where Finn Russell gets tackled. And he ends up on the deck and he gets up and he just cheers. And then one of the Western Force boys just pushes him, piles into him.
Well, he cheers in his face, doesn't he? So it's
a
bit
little
shit
bit. Yeah, I mean, but he actually picks the wrong guy because it was a different guy that shoved him over. But you know what it's like when you're shoved over like that and you get up and you're like, nearest bloke, you're having it. Yeah. And it just, it's part of the game. And they're going to go after him because, and actually when you listen to Nick White loved what this kid's about.
Him.
Yeah, name drops him, loves what he's about, talks about him in his interview. And there's no bad in it. Like, let the boy be Henry Pollock. And, he makes the break that leads to Thomas Williams' try. People are like, oh, he got yellow carded. Well, actually, if you watch when he gets yellow carded, it's a team yellow because they had so many.
And it was harsh.
And he's given the quickest release and got back on the ball. And I thought it was the wrong call. But, I'm not going to go too deep into Ben O'Keefe not giving any jackal penalties. But maybe Henry Pollock needs to learn that there hasn't been any jackal penalties. So I've got to show a big release with my hands massively in the air. But, everything about Henry Pollock, and I'm not saying he's the finished article. I'm not saying he's the best thing since Jim Hamilton played for Scotland and scored a hat-trick against India for Leicester Tigers, but he's pretty special and much better back row brains than you or I, Jim, because we're not, are saying the same things. And it's not jumping on a bandwagon because we've been on the bandwagon from day one. He's answering questions.
Well, yeah.
But personally, I'd start Jack Conan if it was a test match tomorrow at number 8, and I'd have Henry Pollock on the bench to give me a big impact.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. And again, you said it there. We're not on the bandwagon. We turned the engine on to the wagon at the start when we were getting all the hate when we picked him as a bolter. Yeah. And he's delivered on every single thing. I think my question mark is more not putting too much pressure on him. Not that we're influenza in any kind of way.
He loves it, mate. He loves it. He listens and he loves it. I'm telling you. Spoke to him in Cardiff.
It's great.
Loves it.
It's
Good
brilliant. It's brilliant to see. And he has delivered. And to be able to do the skills that he's doing in the game, that chip and chase just being an example. I actually thought the one that he did in the Prem match was a bit of a fluke.
No.
But in order to, well, obviously it's not, but watching him do some of the stuff that he's doing, and his meters after contact as well when he gets hit, and when he made that, it might have been off the chip and chase as well, having the kind of mental clarity to release the ball and get back on his feet and nearly score and end up scoring off the back of it. They are world-class traits already at the age of 20. So maybe I'm piling on the pressure, but yeah, as we know, we're big fans of Henry Pollock. And actually, you think about players that have burst on the scene. I can't remember the last time anything like this happened. So maybe we are putting it on him.
You're right, but you think about start of the Six Nations, we had him on talking about the under 26 nations. And he was like, we were like, surely, mate, you want to get in the mix with England? He's like, yeah, hopefully my time will come. Bang. Straight in the Six Nations after a couple of rounds, gets on against Wales, British and Irish line. And he's the name on people's lips across the world, whether you're Australian. And all the Australian fans will be going, who have you heard of? Well, Henry Pollock, he's the one on everyone's lips, right? And Lions fans as well. And, he loves the pressure. He loves, I think, the cameras and all that stuff. And he's not playing up to it. He's living up to it. And that's a big thing.
Oh, that's a great statement, Andrew. That's have you thought about that?
It just came to me. It just came to me.
Did it? Mate, that might have been the best thing you've ever said on this podcast.
James.
Can you just say it one last time, please?
I can't remember what I said.
He's forgot.
I said he's not playing up to it. The cameras and all that stuff. He's living up to it, Jim.
Oh, very true. That's cold.
Well, I put it out to the masses on Instagram, lads. I asked for some hot takes from the fans.
It's too hot now. I'll be honest, it's too fucking hot now. Can someone turn the heating down?
So
I'm going to read some out for you, and I want you to rate on a scale of ridiculous to...
Oh, here we go. I love this. This is us hiding behind the fans now. I've done this before.
Blame the fans.
It's not me asking the questions. They're asking the questions. We're just answering them, Rob. I love this. So for the listeners, I refuse to do the gradings again. So Goode was bad for it. He was keen to do it. So let's just hide behind the fans' hot takes. Let's go.
So Mac Mahoney said, I think the Lions clean sweep the rest of the tour. Argentina was a sounding alarm and has focused everyone.
Like, we could still win it 3-0, couldn't we? We don't know how good the Aussies are. I mean, good luck against Fiji next Saturday when they're playing. But in reality, yeah, I could see that. It's not too far away from what could be reality. We ain't saying we're going to beat Australia by 50 points in all the test matches, but quite conceivably, we could win 3-0. Like, we could lose 3-0. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that's beyond the realms of ridiculousness. Mac Mahoney, that's not bad. Yeah, I kind of agree. We could win everything from now, James. What about you?
Argentina, Western Force, a golfing class and talent. Let's answer Mac Mahoney's question again in a couple of games time.
Oh, sitting on the fence.
They can. No, I'm not sitting on the fence. I really don't know. I've seen some real quality stuff, and we saw the Argentina game, and Andy Farrell said it wasn't good enough. So yeah, I think we need a little bit more opposition and combinations to see. I need to see the big game players turn up. I need to see Maro Itoje really stepping up as captain. We need to see Jameson Gibson-Park. We need to see another 15 in that position who's fit, raring to go, unbelievable under the high ball. We need to see the restarts and stuff, which were a shambles at the weekend. They're the things, right? Because...
Jim, you say the shambles, the kickoffs were shambles. And I get they weren't great, but I'm telling you now, watching them, Nick White, I reckon he's up there with some of, if not the best. He's probably the best kickoff merchant in the world right now in terms of the variance, the height, the hang time, the precision. They were some unreal kickoffs. You'd have been struggling. They'd have been bouncing off your head, Jim, if I'm being honest.
I'm tripping up on a lace before and screaming, whose ball? Jim's ball! Straight off the head. It's impossible. But they
were class from Nick White.
Yeah, it was wicked. But with the aerial ability of the Australian players, as we know, Suailihi.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so I'll come back to Mac, if that is Mac, or if that might be Peter O'Mahony. So come back to him in a couple of weeks.
Speaking of aerial ability, Chef Mackenzie says Elliot Daly, greater than symbol, Marcus Smith for a utility back. Discuss.
Chef
Is that
Mackenzie.
what that symbol is?
Is it? Yeah.
I
Greater than. Did you not know that, James? Do you have a shit maths teacher or what?
Well, she's a great woman, but I just
You will not call out Mrs. Goode.
Is that what that means?
Greater than, yes.
Or the other way is
Yeah.
less than.
Yeah.
There you go, Rob. I don't know how you know that. Well, Jeff Parlin's dad was your maths teacher, was he?
Science teacher.
Was he your maths teacher?
Yeah,
Science.
I got
okay,
an F
same
in
thing.
science
Maths,
as well.
Science, same things. Oh, did you? Well, hey, you've got an A in maths today because you've taught me something. So, Andrew, I'll let you answer this.
Elliot Daly, greater than or better than Marcus Smith for utility back. Yeah, but you're not comparing apples. You're not comparing apples with apples. Marcus Smith covers fly half. When it comes to the makeup of the bench, you could see them both on the bench because Elliot can cover centre. You've got to have a backup 10 on the bench, right? So that takes one spot. You're starting Finn Russell. You're either picking Finn Smith on the bench or you're picking Marcus Smith on the bench. Because as much as Blair Kinghorn should be in the Test match 23 or might be, you can't rely on him as a backup 10, even though he has done it internationally. It's tough. I think Elliot Daly gets in the match day 23 and it might be a straight shootout between someone like Bundy Aki and Elliot Daly to see who can cover, and then you've got to move other people around in different positions. So as a fullback, Elliot Daly is better than Marcus Smith in terms of utility, but Elliot Daly can't play 10 and you need a 10 on the bench. So that's where Marcus Smith might have a bit more if you're comparing those two. But I don't think you're comparing the same things there. You're not comparing apples with apples because they cover different spots.
Owen Clark, 18, says full Irish back three for the first test.
Could be, could very well be.
Need to see Hugo Keenan. Yeah, need to see him. And no one's really spoken about him for the starting position of 15. Maybe that's just in our inner circles, but world-class player, brilliant talent, and friend of the show. Might not be happy with Matt Hansen on the wing. Let's not forget Tommy Freeman as well. But James Lowe, I'm trying to think. Duan didn't play well against Argentina. A few question marks now.
Look at James Lowe's impacts at the weekend. A couple of 1-2s, creating tries. They offload in. Sheehan gives him the offload off the crossfield kick, doesn't he? Then he gives him a sick offload back. Like James Lowe's, I think, nailed on to start a test match on the wing. And I love Twitter or X. I put it out there and said both wings will be Irish come the test matches, and everyone's like, they're not Irish. One's Australian, one's a Kiwi. Fuck off, they're Irish.
Well, if you go on the stadium announcers, they announce number 11, the Kiwi non-Irishman James Lowe. Loved it.
I love that actually. Yeah, it's good chat from the Aussies.
This episode is brought to you by Sky Sports on Now.
The British and Irish Lions are down under for the tour, and I'm pretty excited to see how it's going to unfold, Jim.
Oh yeah, me too. I'll be glued to Sky Sports, as it's the only place to watch every thrilling moment. Andrew, who are you most looking forward to seeing?
Oh, it's got to be Finn Russell, my favourite fly half, my favourite player, now champion of England as well. Finn Russell's the man. What about you, Jim?
I'm interested to see if Henry Pollock, at the age of 20, could make the test match side. That's it.
There we go. And what are your predictions?
Predictions 2-1. I reckon Lions first, Australia second in Melbourne in front of 100,000 people, and it's a straight shootout in the third.
However the Lions get on, it's going to be very hard to take your eyes off the action. So make sure you catch all 3 tests and all 6 warm-up games live from the 20th of June to the 2nd of August on Sky Sports.
And by streaming Sky Sports with Now, you can add and remove membership whenever you like.
Nice! Watch every match on Sky Sports, available to stream live with Now. 18 plus, UK only. Minimum speed 2.5 megabytes per second. Live scheduling may be subject to change and full terms apply.
We are joined now by former British and Irish Lion himself. He has 2 test caps in the infamous 97 Lions tour to South Africa. He was also coach in 2021. But more importantly, he's the man steering the ship for Scotland. It's the great Gregor Townsend. Mate, we'll get straight into it, Tony, because I know you've got to go out to training. But just give us a kind of sense of how important this tour is And it is in the shadows of the British and Irish Lions tour, so I think we're all aware of that. But for you as a coach and for the development of Scotland, for the lads going down there, because as I know, as you know as well, going down to New Zealand and Fiji and these places is bloody tough.
It is, and it's the first time for 25 years that a Scotland team have toured New Zealand. We were there for the World Cup back in 2011, but that's one of the most important things about this trip. We're going to a rugby country. We're going to be here 2.5 weeks. We're going to Fiji for a week as well, which is obviously a rugby mad country. And we got 3 games, so 2 test matches, really important ones against Fiji and Samoa, with world ranking and World Cup draws being made after the November tests. And then a game this weekend against the Maori All Blacks, which gives us a chance to play other players that probably didn't play much rugby for us over the last couple of years against a very tough opponent. So yeah, it's development, but also that test match rugby that we're here to win.
You skimmed over it just slightly there. The World Rugby rankings, which absolutely stitched us. And I know you got to win every game, but look, we've got to talk about it. So have they not changed that so that they're still making the decision around seedings for the World Cup in, when did you say, November?
November.
2 years
so
out.
That's earlier than last time. Sorry, later than last time.
Later.
Oh, is it later?
Yeah, it's later.
By how many months?
Yeah, well, by how many years? I think it was based on the previous World Cup ranking.
Oh, okay. All right.
And there is a little change this year as well because of 6 pools. So getting into the top 6 is very important. The last few World Cups, getting in the top 4, getting the top 8 helps you out with your pools. But top 6 now is what everybody's striving towards.
Makes
100%.
sense.
Now, obviously, with how important the games are, I know every test match is important, but in terms of the games that you're playing against Samoa and Fiji, for those sort of points and the kind of league table where you end up come November time, it's obviously tough doing it without your Lions players. You're missing, your biggest and best players in Sione Tuipulotu, Finn Russell, the list, obviously, Van der Merwe. Does that frustrate you a little bit that there's so much importance, or do you see it as a huge opportunity for someone like an Adam Hastings to take over from Finn Russell at 10, or Fergus Burke getting his first call up as well? How do you look at that? A bit of frustration, but also positivity, or all positivity?
Yeah, but more of the latter. I think it's great that we've got, we had 8 players in the Lions tour, 7 now, and we're watching their games. Very proud of them. We want more players in the Lions tour, and it's a positive that we're getting to work with players and see players playing for Scotland that didn't play in the Six Nations. It makes it a little bit more challenging going to Fiji in particular, who are a quality side. But we believe in our depth. We believe in the players that have stepped up in the past with injuries, when we've had injuries. Like this year when Sione missed the Six Nations, Tom Jordan was outstanding. You've got guys coming back from injury like Kyle Stain, Darcy Graham, Kyle Rowe played during the Six Nations. So we have got quality depth throughout our squad, and it'll be tested over the next few weeks.
Gregor, with this line stuff, and you've been involved with the selection stuff, and I don't know how opinion-based you can be. You're in the middle of obviously coaching the team, and the Lions tour's happening now. But would you share with us any players that you felt were, or should have gone, that you felt were maybe not hard done by, because it's all subjective, right? But is there anyone there where you were like, how's he not gone? Like we were, like all of us were like, how's he not there?
I'll let you guys talk about the ones that missed out. I was in a group, we had a sort of a golf day and a dinner the night before the Lions squad was selected, and there was 10 of us, and we all had to put our squads in of 38, and I was going to be saying, oh, well, you'll get inside information because you're a national team coach, but I didn't get it right, and within the group of 10 we had 71 players selected, 71 different players. So that shows you the difference of opinions, but also the depth in British and Irish rugby. So while we would have loved a few more in the squad, and there'll be some players that were absolutely gutted to miss out and that have been in top form, I'm sure there was others from other countries that would have felt the same.
Yeah, definitely. Now, obviously, you've got a big history with the Lions, and I said it last week on the pod around people fell in love with the Lions, I think, in '97 over in South Africa, which you had a big part of. You went back there last tour. And I know you actually pulled yourself out of being part of the selection process for the coaches because of how important the Scotland job is to you. Is there any part of you that's thinking, gee, I'd love to be in Australia now? Which I know you're probably going to say, no, I'm delighted that I'm over here with Scotland. But, you've got a rich history with the Lions, haven't you, as a player and as a coach. And it's a great tour that as we're now starting to see the first week there, we're seeing more and more on social media. It's a hell of a time to be a Lion, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think you saw when the build-up to the game in Dublin, the amount of supporters that were in the hotel, that lined the streets and went to the game. Huge crowd at Perth the other day. It's going to get bigger and bigger. And then the players haven't experienced that for 8 years, so it will be one of, if not the most important things they'll do in their rugby career. It was for me as a player. And I'm delighted that we have staff members involved, John DL and Mark Beals, and the players in the group. But if you're busy with something else and something really challenging like we have, then that's a great driver for us to enjoy this tour, enjoy this experience, but also keep an eye on what's going on in Australia.
Great straight back.
Gregor.
Love it.
Not on this one.
Is that not the straight back one?
No, we'll get into it. We're going to ask, we're going to go to fans Q&As, Gregor, so it's all hidden behind the fans. Gregor, I wanted to ask, because everyone talks about the 97 Lions tour, you were a part of that. And the reason is because we got to see it, right? We got to see the documentary that was made, probably ahead of its time when it comes to even sports documentaries. I wanted to get your gauge on all of this content and marketing and grow the game and all of these buzzwords that people are throwing out. Just actually, is it difficult, like as a head coach, giving away strategy, the personalities that come in? I suppose the distractions of having cameras in there. It's a sideway question to what we're talking about now, but it is quite topical because we're seeing the stuff come out about the British and Irish Lions. I'm sure they want to make a docu-series. We saw the flop of the Netflix series, and speaking to a few of the media managers, how that was kind of manipulated and done maybe the wrong way, and it was uncomfortable for a lot of people. What's your take on all this kind of content stuff that's being thrown about there for the game at the minute?
Oh, I'm massively behind it. And regarding Netflix, that we gave Netflix access to everything, every team meeting, every minute of our footage. We understood that the profile of our sport needs to be raised. We want more people supporting Scotland rugby team, rugby in general, more people being inspired to play. So, no, I think it's a real positive. I think there's always a challenge of saturation point and putting too much out there, holding things back for whether it's post-tour videos. Video is probably not the word.
They're different videos, Gregor. Mate, they're different videos,
yeah.
Gregor.
But people are loving it. The behind-the-scenes footage from the Lions already, I'm sure they can't wait to see when the next one drops. So no, I'm all for it, Jim. And you know what's changed over the last few years is the players are much more engaged with the cameras, with the media, with commercial partners. In the past, it would have been, oh no, we've got to do something for our sponsors, or I'm getting interviewed by media or in-house media or external media. Now they're really engaged. They want to be a part of it, and that's just social media or the Instagram culture. They are much more comfortable with that. And you get to see their personalities a lot more. They're able to be themselves a lot more.
Tuna, you mentioned some stuff like behind the scenes there, and everyone's looking forward to the next one. I go back to the 97 one when John Bentley's walking around with a camera. You were part of that, but there was a few scenes that you probably wouldn't get away with now. Not you personally, but John Bentley in the gym and all that stuff, making comments.
You're almost describing it with your hands there. So I know exactly
He's nervous. Yeah, it's the nerves of the size.
It was wicked, wasn't it? So, who would be the guy from a Scotland camp that would be the John Bentley out of the lads that have been picked? So there's the 7 that are there now, and possibly 8 in a minute. But who would be the John Bentley from the Scotland camp?
Well, Scoomy loves the camera.
Yeah.
He's a camera. He would definitely go on, he would be carrying the video around. He just will engage with anybody, strangers, teammates. I think Hugh Jones has been great with us. He leads our court sessions, and he actually kicked off, or there was a changing of the guard. Pierce Goodman used to do our court sessions, but Hugh Jones took over. Fun, not fines was his motto. So I'm sure he'll be involved in the social side of it. So yeah, those two guys in our squad are also in the Lions squad.
I was going to hide behind a fan's question here. John Stevens 6939, but it's not. It's actually a question from me, and it's quite topical, Tony. You look at the makeup of the 97s team, right, and they were made up of British and Irish Lions and residents and people that were born in them countries, okay? And there might have been a few outliers that might have been born in random places. It is quite topical at the minute because it's doing the rounds, and we're getting asked the question as well. The likes of Pierre Schoeman and Sione Muktuapalotu, Duan van der Merwe, James Lowe, Mac Hansen, and the list does go on. I just wanted to get your take, one from a Scotland perspective, and then also from a British and Irish Lions, where people are starting to question actually bringing in players that are not seen as British and Irish. I have my views on that, and I'm sure that we're probably aligned on them. But from your point of view, because we're doing it in Scotland as well, aren't we? We're bringing players from outside of what's seen as the traditional system. And then we're in this kind of new age of project players and searching for talent across the globe. And the Lions are doing that as well.
Yeah, look, it's always been the case. If you're qualified to play for your country, whether that's on heritage, you being born there, your parents being born there, your grandparents being born there, it doesn't matter if you've got an English accent or a South African accent or an Australian accent like you. That is the rules, and every country's done that, and not just in the professional era, going back many years. And then the residency rule, yeah, there'll be people that'll have their views on that. It's now 5 years, so that means you have to make a real commitment to living in that country, being a part of that culture, and more importantly, giving everything to the team. And that's what engages our supporters, whether they're Scottish, Irish, or British and Irish Lions, that if someone's going to wear that jersey and put huge effort in for their teammates. And like any tour that attracts so much attention, there's going to have people with different views, or people deliberately, obviously, maybe in Australia, trying to make it an issue to distract the actual performance of both teams. But all I can say about the players that weren't brought up in Scotland, that I've worked with, they're as committed to playing for Scotland as any other player. Our captain is one of the most passionate players I've coached, that connects with his teammates, connects with the public, Sione Tuipulotu. And obviously he's got a real strong heritage link to Scotland, but just because he's got an Australian accent, that doesn't mean that he doesn't deserve to play for the British and Irish Lions.
There you go, Jim.
100%.
And you asked the question, Jim, with your English accent. So I like the way Tooney said whether you got an English accent.
I knew Tooney's answer. I knew his answer. But I think it's important coming from Tooney to clear that up, because we get a bit of hate in Scotland for that. You know, I know we kind of joke about it. Go on, Tooney.
Yeah, well, there's so much nuance towards it as well. Like we've got Alexander Masibaka, who is so proud to be part of this squad. His mum, born in Scotland, has got a Scottish tattoo, thistle on his leg. Like, he dreamed about playing for Scotland one day. His dad's Fijian. He's now going to go to Fiji with us next week and have that dual heritage of playing for a country that he never thought might happen, but he was always passionate about it. But the other side of his family are Fijian. I think of Cam Redpath in our squad right now. So all of Cam's family are Scottish. His dad captained Scotland, but he was brought up in England, and he had a decision to make. He played both age group rugby for England and Scotland. He could easily be playing for England. Finn Smith was the same, all family Scottish. So it's not as simple for the players to say you're one nationality or another. But once you commit to that, you have to give everything. And certainly players I've coached, they do that. And the ones in the Lions are the same.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to ask you quickly about the Lions. We've seen two games, and Tooney, I'm not saying this because you're just on with us, but I love the way you've got an attacking mindset, the way your teams play, Scotland attack and all that stuff. We know an Andy Farrell team might be based on some of Ireland's attack. How do you look at the first 2 games and kind of sum up the attack? Because in 21 it was very different under Warren Gatland in how you had to beat a South African team effectively. But how are you seeing the attack from the Lions over the first 2 games?
Yeah, I think the first game was really difficult to just be together for a week and then go up against one of the top teams in world rugby. We're very cohesive, but I think in both games you've seen an intent to play rugby and move the ball, and you'll probably see more attack in the build up to the test matches than necessarily will occur in the test matches. I think the more players are getting hands on the ball and getting used to an attacking system throughout the build up to the test series, the better. And obviously the opposition does get much harder for the test series. So it might be that they deploy different tactics for the test, but so far it's great to see the outside backs getting so many touches and seeing some really good tries.
Last question, Gregor. Australia, we've had good success as a country being Scotland against them, but how good are they and how much can they challenge the Lions?
Yeah, they'll be very good. They'll be able to have an excellent preparation. There's not that many Australians or Wallabies that are going to play in these games before the test series. So that means they're going to be working on their game. They get to see the Lions game plan week in, week out. So they'll be well prepared. They do have one game against Fiji a couple of weeks before the first test. So that's a good prep for them as well. And I think any time you play against a Joe Schmidt coach team, there's going to be a lot of periods in the game where you don't have the ball. He plays a type of rugby which is focused around the contact area, so it's hard to win that ball back off them. They play close to the ruck, and if you combine that with the skill and individual talent they have, they're going to be a real threat. Aerially too, I think the game has changed over the last 6 to 12 months where contestable kicks, whether at kickoffs or in general play, are now a huge feature of the game, and they've got 1 or 2 players who are outstanding in the air. And I think if they avoid their top players picking up injuries, I think it'll be a really competitive test series.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks, Greg. I just want to wish you all the best for 3 monumental games, Maoris, Fiji and Samoa. If in doubt, shout your man, because there's going to be some big units coming down the channels. Hopefully you come away with 3 good victories and then you can get a fair seeding. You can get a fair seeding at the next World Cup as well, because Jim's still raging about the last one. Appreciate it.
Good chatting, guys.
Thanks, Gregor. Good luck over the next few weeks, mate. Good luck all weekend against Maori All Blacks. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Right, lads, should we do a bit of a tour watch? So let's look at a few specific players whose stock has either gone up or down in a Lions stock market.
Do you want gradings or not? Because I ain't doing it. I told you that. Go on.
Not
How's
gradings.
this working?
It's not gradings. Stock up, stock down, or stock in debate, or what is it, Rob?
Up for debate. Yeah. So I think we'll start off with some positivity. So whose stock is on the up?
Finn Russell.
Did you see his comments, when he got asked about Johnny Sexton before the game?
Yeah.
He was a bit coy. I don't know. Just felt a bit like...
What did he say?
The lady asking the questions just said, what advice has Johnny given you and stuff like that? And he was like, basically not a lot. Yeah, so I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how that unfolds. Look, Finn, for me, 100%. I don't think his stock has risen. His stock is up near the top, and you've seen throughout the year, he's been the standout fly-off probably in the world. So stock is there. Stock is not up.
So this is from the weekend, Rob, is it? So just your stock's gone up from the game on Saturday from on the pitch, or
from Saturday and from the Argentina tour as well. Because there was questions about Finn before the tour started. There's always these questions about Finn, isn't there? Is he a top class 10? But
stock up.
Yeah, stock up. Another one, Ellis Genge. Definitely stock up.
Definitely.
100% stock up.
You'd run through a brick wall for him.
Well, you need the emotional drivers, and it can't be Andy Farrell doing it every single game, getting them up for it. And we know Maro's a leader from the front as opposed to banging chest. I think when you've got a group of lads that don't have a long time together in that group, and in a group of men in this day and age where you question that fucking let's be fucking having ya kind of part of the game and the emotion, it's changed. But with Ellis Genge, that's deep rooted in him, and you need that now. And I think you need that for a Lions tour, and you need that against what is going to be an incredibly physical Australian team. So Ellis Genge, his stock is up.
I reckon Mack Hansen's stock's gone up in a big way because he missed most of the Six Nations this year, didn't he? And obviously, he's one of the few players that doesn't play at Leinster, so you don't really see him much at Connacht. And then I thought he was great at the weekend. You know,
he was awesome against Argentina when he came on.
Yeah. He's like an unorthodox winger, isn't he? I can see why certain people maybe
busy.
Don't
he's very busy. He makes things. It's because he wears a scrum cap and he doesn't look like a. And this is me talking here. He doesn't look like an Adonis. Let's just say that. Like he's got a look.
He's not
about
Duan van der Merwe, is he?
He's a grafter, mate. He's a grafter, and he's busy, and he'll. You know, he might make the odd error. Defensively, people are like, oh, he bit in, but that was, I think, part of the system.
Systemically,
yeah. How they were slightly tight, and that might be a little bit of a worry as a team defensively. But look how busy he is. Look how he bounces out of tackles. Look how he creates offloads and his footwork. And like every time he touches it, okay, it's not a Cheslin Colby. He could run 60 and score. But when you play with these players that create little bits and bobs and get the ball beyond the tackle zone, create an offload, I think he's a class outfit. I think he's a class player. He doesn't look the part necessarily to the outsiders who want to see an Adonis of a winger. He's got a bit of a beard and all this stuff and a few tats, and he's a bit loose and he likes the crack and whatever. He's all business on the pitch, and it was great to see him back because he's been injured for a while. But as everyone said, Andy Farrell knows him better than anyone else, and he can only add value, I think.
You know my views on Mac, world class. 2 words, simple.
Anybody else whose stock's gone up?
Oh, McCarthy. Joe McCarthy, I thought, answered a lot of questions about him personally, individually, and how he plays. Big fucking animal. And I still go back to when I was at Leicester and they were playing Leinster and he came down the steps and I was like, geez, look at the size of him. And then when you see that sort of performance, he's using all his weight. He's got a lovely mullet at the back. He was, I thought his stock rose immensely at the weekend.
Can I give you another one that's up for debate?
Oh, go on.
It feels like he shouldn't be up for debate, but Gary Ringrose, because he's been so good for so long. But like, you watch him at the weekend, he's absolutely melting lads in defence, isn't he? He's flying up, he's absolutely destroying lads. But kind of all that chat pre-tours, Sione and Aki and Hugh Jones, I don't know, Gary Ringrose doesn't seem to be the name that's coming out a lot.
I have a thing on rugby now as a whole when it comes to playing the way that a Gary Ringrose does. It's just not sustainable. Like that dude
he bangs
a freak when it comes to tackling, right? And he's had his fair injuries off the back of that. That has a short shelf life. I'm not saying that he is at the end of the shelf. I do not believe that. But that is his point of difference, right? So if you were to look at attacking, Hugh Jones takes that. I mean, Hugh Jones has just come back from injury. So Gary Ringrose at the minute is probably issue 13 until Hugh Jones tells us otherwise off the back of that. But I understand why it would still be up for debate and it wouldn't be 100% nailed on, because I don't think we've seen the best of Gary Ringrose consistently for probably the last year, but a world-class player, like absolutely phenomenal. So I don't want to be too harsh on the lad, but you've asked the question and it's in there. If he starts the first test, second, third test, no one's batting an eyelid, me included.
It's mad that was his first ever Lions game, wasn't it?
Yeah, here's one for you. How do you leave Tommy Freeman out then?
I think it's between Freeman and Mack Hansen for a starting slot on the wing. And do you sway towards Mack Hansen because of the Irish connection, because of the potential Irish back three? Tommy Freeman is finishing tries left, right and centre.
Yeah, but Tommy Freeman's one of the informed players in the world.
Yeah, I know. No, I agree. So who would you pick, Jim? Mack Hansen or Tommy Freeman? If you had to leave one of them out. Pick one now.
No.
Okay.
Don't need to.
Mac and Faz seem to have like a very good relationship as well, don't they? It's very like sort of father and son type relationship, I think.
Yeah, and you never, ever, ever, ever hear Andy Farrell name drop a player after a game, ever. And he name dropped Mac at the end of the game for his work off the ball. So,
Anybody else up for debate?
Yeah, Rob. Tight head.
Oh.
Because I think some might say the horse stock took a hit in Ty Furlong, but I think everyone's been pinning their hopes that Ty Furlong comes through and that he is the starting choice, the out-and-out starting tight head in any team that you've seen. So anyone, any expert, any fan would have Ty Furlong at tight head. He's a race against the clock now to get back to where he was before his injury. Was it a year? Or has it been longer than a year? Because there's no doubt about it, when Ty Furlong was on, and when he is on, he's best tight head in the world. So he's got a bit of work to do, and it's going to be hard, isn't it? Because there's a lot of work to get through when you're in the front row now. It's not just about pushing in the scrum. And we know that Ty Furlong is so much more than that. That is what I'm saying. His point of difference is ball carrying ability and work rate and fitness and all of these things. And he's just not had as many miles in the legs as probably he would have liked, but also for us passing judgment to be like, he is now nailed on at tight head. I'm unsure.
Yeah, I mean, I think he has been that player, hasn't he, where he has been the first choice tight head and, a standout player in that position in the world. But I think Will Stewart has worked incredibly hard and played exceptionally well to close the gap. And yeah, Ty Furlong's had injury issues, but you'd start either of them. And even Finlay Bealham against Argentina, I thought he was outstanding as well. So you can actually, I don't know whether you can do it as like the top 14 finalists do, where it's just like rolling subs, but you could bang Ty Furlong out there for 45 and then play Will Stewart for 35. And the levels, there's not much difference between the players, is there? There's different strengths, of course. But, and I know Ty Furlong has had X-factor moments, but so's Will Stewart, my old belly swerve. Do you remember his belly swerve and his break for England? The lad's got it as well. So. How
funny is the comparison to Sam Smith? That one there just gets me every time. There's one other that we can't talk about on here in terms of comparison, but the Will Stewart Sam Smith one gets me every time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So, I hear you about Furlong, but, it's not like there's no one else there that's, sort of top of their game. Will Stewart is.
Tour Watch is brought to you by Sky Sports on Now, because if you really want to get in the thick of the action, the only place to watch every match live is on Sky Sports, available to stream with Now. 18 plus, UK only, minimum speed 2.5 megabits per second. Live scheduling may be subject to change. Full terms apply.
Right, lads, let's finish things off with the good, the bad and the ugly.
Sponsored by?
morelandbrawl.com.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's been a few orders. They're coming. We're in the distribution lab this week. So anyone who's made their orders, the orders are on their way. And I think Isaac's refused to get his hands bleeding or blisters on them. So Beck's going to be deep in the well this week. So thank you for your orders. morelandbrawl.com if anyone wants any shower gel or shampoo, also known as shampoir. Thank you.
Is it in date still?
It's definitely in date.
Just
100% in
stuff.
date. Yeah, there's another month left. We're good.
Let's start off with the Goode then. The Lions get a shout in the Goode, clinical in scoring tries from their own 22. A big step up from last week in terms of that attacking and the ball sticking. I thought some big performances came from Joe McCarthy, Finn Russell, Mac Hansen, James Lowe, Elliot Daly and Henry Pollock. Josh van der Fleer as well. I thought he went about his business very well too, which we haven't really mentioned. What else was good? South Africa put 50 on the bars. They scored 8 tries. It wasn't that great a game, but they put 50 on them. And Vincent Shituka, great name, Shituka. He scored 2 tries.
Shituka, wicked player he is, by the way. Of course he is.
Yeah, so we'll give him a shout out. He's obviously a Shark and a South African and a Springbok, so Jim loves him. So we'll give him a shout out. Italy. They get a shout in the Goode this week. They put 70 on Namibia, James, in Namibia, beating the Namibians 73 points to 6. So big shout out to Italy. I'm trying to find things to say good things about, but there's only one Goode this week. We'll get to it. We'll go straight in there. And it is Toulouse. They won the top 14 again, and Blair Kinghorn didn't play that well, played all right, but Jack Willis, oh my Jack Willis, how was he not on the plane to Australia? 2 tries. Thomas Ramos as well. He got man of the match. He kicked 9 out of 10, best kicker in the world. The longest club competition in the world, the top 14, goes to extra time in 30 degrees heat in Paris, even though it was 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. Macron's there, the stadium was full, and Toulouse came good, beating Bordeaux 39-33, James. So they win the Goode. The bad, few bits of bad, Australia under-20s are going to get a shout out in the bad this week, James. Do you know why?
Well, I know the under-20s World Cup's up and running, so hit us under the radar. Who did they lose to?
They lost to South Africa, James. 73 points to 17.
Oh, okay. All right. So, big old score.
Yeah. You're about to say why, but 73. Australia under-20s took 73 points against the South Africans. Scotland under-20s, Jim, they get a shout out in the bad this week. They lost 56-19 to 14-man England. I'll come on to that in a minute. But the bad this week, unfortunately, goes to the injury to Thomas Williams. We hope it's not bad news, but it is bad news if you pulled your hammy. And we'll find out over the next couple of days what's going on. But the bad this week, unfortunately, goes to Thomas Williams' injury, the first one on the Lions tour. And then the ugly, one bit of ugly, Jim, we're going back to England under-20s against Scotland under-20s. And it goes to England's number 6, George Timmins. He got sent off for a elbow on the floor to the head of tight head prop Ollie Blythe Lafferty. Straight red card, not having it. Cut him open, elbow, forearm, bang. Not on that.
Did he bleed blue? Did Ollie bleed blue?
I think it was red and white. I think he's probably English with a name like Ollie Blythe Lafferty. No, he bled blue. But the ugly this week goes to George Timmins for getting sent off for England 20s.
Right, lads, a couple of shout-outs to finish.
Yeah, sticking with the under-20s, Roberto. All kicked off in Italy. I don't mean from a fighting point of view, unless you were the England under-20s lad. The tournament as a whole in Italy, so good luck to all the lads taking part. We know there's a few listeners amongst the ranks of the youngsters as well. So Goode mentioned a few of the scores there. England beat Scotland 56 points to 19. Australia, a narrow defeat to South Africa, 17 points to 73. Ireland, and we know the investment, the amount of money being, I'm joking. We know that the system in Ireland is very good, but 23 points to 19 against Georgia. So they're coming at all levels. So big shout out to the Georgian under-20s team. But all of you under-20s players. Hello to all you under-20s. Hello.
I need to give a shout out, actually, lads.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, to Whoop, who are joining us.
Whoop!
Whoop! Exactly.
There it is. Whoop, there it is. Whoop, there it is.
Be careful, we might get copyrighted. Go on, Rob.
Well, they've come on board and they're going to be supporting me on this ultra endurance run in Australia, which is about 3 weeks away, by the way, lads. Not that I'm scared or nervous or wishing I'd trained a bit harder or anything like that. But they are going to be donating 50% of the subscription fee. So if you sign up to Whoop, they're going to be donating 50% of your subscription fee to Delalio Rugby Works if you sign up using my code, which is join.whoop with 2 O's.com/Rob Rogan.
Oh, you've called yourself Rob Rogan. Oh, wow.
There he is.
This is the transition, lads.
I'm all for it. Rob, maybe you tell us what it is.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, they're sending us all them in the post. I was hoping we were going to get them by today because I'm really interested to see how many hours of sleep Goode actually gets. So basically you wear them and it gives you a lot of like health markers and it tells you about how well you sleep and your heart rate variability.
Oh gosh.
All the Lions lads have got them on, so they're all like getting over the jet lag and they're all getting prepped and it gives you a score. But it would be quite interesting to see what Goode's Whoop scores are after a week in Dublin or Glasgow.
No. I'll tell you now, I get into bed, I sleep like a king. I'm asleep. It does my missus head in. She's like, how do you sleep so well? I'm like, just close your eyes and go to sleep, don't you?
No, there is a man with no conscience there. That is why he sleeps. Okay, I'm telling you now, mate, I have seen a phenomenon before my eyes many a time. So I don't know what the scores will read. If it's scientifically proven, Andrew, it's going to be screaming red in the morning. You might not feel like it is, but I'm all for it. Rob, get me watch sent up. I'll wear it like an ankle bracelet if it reads it from that.
No, but it's cool to have a brand like Whoop on board as well, and they're donating a big portion of the of their fee to the charity as well. So it's really cool. So thanks, Whoop.
Oh, yeah, it is cool. Rob,
yeah.
You need no pressure now to deliver. So just leave it there. I'll be following your journey remotely. So
thanks, mate.
Yeah, on the 30th of July, Thomas will be riding from Perth not in Western Australia, Jim, but up in Scotland, down to Cornwall, via every single ambulance charity raising money for Ride for Hugo, which is in memory of Thomas's brother and aunt. Yeah, good luck with that, Tom. That is a long old ride, and you're doing it for a great cause.
Also got a shout out to Tom and the lads who are cycling 180 miles from Rotherham Titans up north of England to Tabart RFC this weekend in memory of Cam. Cam is a long-time Tabard captain and a top bloke who gave loads back to the game. It's all for Orchard Cancer. All you need to do is look up Cycle 4, the number 4, Cam, Cycle number 4, Cam on Just Giving, and show them some love if you can. Good luck, everyone.
Yeah, good luck, lads. And unfortunately, it's a really sad one to finish. I know this one is close to producer Rob's heart. Just wanted to say that everyone at the Rugby Pod is thinking at everyone at Middlesbrough Rugby Club after the awful passing of Milo Capilla, one of their under-13s lads. I'm sure everyone at the club is absolutely devastated. I know from speaking to Rob, it's rocked the whole community. So everyone at Borough Rugby Club and to Milo's friends, family and teammates, we're thinking of you at this incredibly sad time. A special mention has got to go to Lee, who was Milo's teacher at school, who went above and beyond trying to assist in the tragedy. So we're thinking of you and everyone at Middlesbrough Rugby Club, but also Milo's family and friends.
Absolutely.
Cheers, lads.
Right, thank you. Thank you to everyone. As always, we're in it now, aren't we? British and Irish Lions Tour, they're in Australia. And we're there for it, aren't we, Andrew?
We certainly are. Looking forward to a big few weeks. Queensland Reds coming up, another 50R, hopefully. But thanks to everyone for listening. Make sure you've subscribed on Spotify, and we'll see you all soon.
Right, that a boy. Rugby Spod.
Spotty pod.